It's our 2025 Combine Review and Free Agency Preview. Ladies and gentlemen, the FTN Fantasy Shots and Tanier NFL podcast is back for March 3rd, 2025. Back in your podcast feeds, back live on YouTube. I am Aaron Schatz. You know me as the DVOA guy from FTN Fantasy. He is Mike Tanier. You know him from his Substack, miketanier.substack.com. We were both in Indianapolis last week, so we're going to talk a little bit about the scouting combine as well as upcoming free agency. Don't forget, as always, if you are watching us live, you can make comments and ask questions, and we will take your questions. We took a couple of questions also through Blue Sky that we will answer in a little bit.
Yes. By the way, while we were at the combine and while we were at the JW Starbucks, we were not at the JW Starbucks for the fight. So if you ask any questions, we'll answer them, but we'll probably just make stuff up.
Yes, for those, who don't know, it's not just a Starbucks in Indianapolis where there was a fight between Ian Rappaport and Jordan Schultz. The Starbucks in the JW Marriott is essentially the center of the NFL universe for a week. But we believe that the fight happened during the Big Data Bowl. Mike, you were elsewhere. I was at the Big Data Bowl. All the analytics people were at the Big Data Bowl, so none of us saw the fight.
Yes.
It was not really much of a fight.
It wasn't a fight. It was a shouting match. There was a little bit of flash photography that was taken of it. But yeah, I call that the Serengeti watering hole, where everyone's sort of, predators and prey and looky-loos all wind up in the same place. And it got a little raucous. Things happen. We know it didn't happen. A Stafford trade.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a second. I do want to remind you that we are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. It's Major League Baseball draft season, and the easiest place to play fantasy baseball is at Underdog Fantasy. We have been active in their best ball format fantasy drafts, where you draft your team over 20 rounds, and the best score from the team you drafted becomes your score for each week of the baseball season. Drafts are constantly filling each and every day, so go to Underdog Fantasy right now. Draft in the Dinger for your share of up to $750,000 in prizes, with first place being a cool $100,000. It is only $10 to draft, and the tournament closes on opening day. Jump in now. Sign up for Underdog and use promo code FTN to get your first deposit matched up to $100, which is 10 free Dinger drafts. Use the promo code FTN. Join Underdog today and get drafting for the upcoming baseball season. It was an interesting combine because I think of the lack of interestingness. Like when the biggest story from the combine is a fight between two reporters at the Starbucks, it really not a lot happened at the combine, especially when it comes to the actual combine itself. I mean, anything we were talking about was, for example, is Matthew Stafford going to be traded? / guess what? Matthew Stafford was not traded.
He was not traded. We said things like, well, T. Higgins, will there be an extension done? Well, guess what? He got franchised.
The Stafford thing never made sense to me. I was told by somebody that he really is just all about the money. But in the end, he's not. In the end, he decided to stay in LA. To me, it's like when you get to a certain age, you've made so much money in the league. Mm-hmm. I've got to think there's a little element of just quality of life. Yeah. That you would rather play in Los Angeles with Sean McVay than play for the Giants.
Did you get a look at the restructure, the details? There has to be a little more money floating around.
No, it's not as much money as the Raiders were allegedly going to give him.
Okay.
But it's a good amount of money.
It's a good amount of money to stay put. So, yeah, it's like you're about the money to a point, and you're also about the using I'll move on as leverage to get the amount of money where you feel comfortable. And that's what Stafford was doing. What I found, I guess impressive about it is how all sides of it, except for Rappaport and Schultz, and really Schultz, he instigated it. All sides of it were being sort of mature and professional about this. It's like, oh, you're looking for more money? Go look for a trade partner. Oh, if you don't have a trade partner, come back. None of it was ever rancorous. None of it was like the Browns and Garrett, for example. It was something that was done like a bunch of professionals trying to do business deals.
The Browns and Garrett is interesting because, the Browns are very adamant they're not doing this.
Yeah.
And I have yet to hear a rumor of an actual offer from another team.
Right.
And which means I've yet to hear a rumor of an offer that makes me go, oh, the Browns should do this.
Well, part of it is they are like very actively stymieing offers. I mean, if you go up there and say, I'm not even going to talk about offers, I don't want to listen to offers, this isn't happening, it's going to depress the market. You're not going to be the one GM who goes out there and offers something because you don't know what the ballpark range is. The other side of the negotiation isn't playing ball with you, so to speak. So, I mean, if they said, look, we're looking at all options and our phones are open, those phones would ring. Those phones would ring, and then we'd have a better sense of that.
I know you and I have a different opinion. You feel like you can't keep him, that he's bullying his way out of town, and that's the way it is. My feeling is it would screw up their cap so much, and the likelihood that they would get equal value is so little that they should honestly just keep him, let him hold out, and let him play half a season angry to toll his contract. But that's better than screwing up their cap the way it would screw up their cap to actually trade him.
That's holding your breath until you turn blue and then passing out on the floor. That's what that is. I'm sorry. You can get picks back.
I don't know. The problem is the Browns are just a mess. Like the Watson thing has just left them a total mess. So
Right, but it's like, we're a mess. Let's just burn it down for the insurance money. That's almost where you're at this point. I mean, you can get first round picks back for Garrett. You can get something back for Garrett that can give you price controlled talent in a series of seasons where you're not going to be able to be competitive, which is kind of where they're at right now.
The one big trade that has been announced is Deebo Samuel to Washington.
Yes.
Washington has a lot of cap space, so they could do this deal. Samuel has not been as impressive the last couple of years. He's still a yak monster. I think he was 8th in yak above expectation last year, which is not as good as he usually is, but still pretty good. But overall, the advanced stats, DVOA wise, and the ESPN tracking metrics is not great. And he is 29. And I put this up on the Blue Sky. Yes, there are exceptions to this, and people will immediately respond with the exceptions. But in general, when a big-time wide receiver is traded, the team that trades him loses more than the team that gains the player gains.
Interesting.
I mean, it's literally a thing in the DVOA projection system that the value you lose is exponentially a little bit higher than the value that you gain when you gain a player like this.
In the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make, or
it's
not.
Actually, I believe that the love you make is better than the love you take.
Well, in this case, it's not as good.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, again, there's plenty of examples. AJ Brown,
yes,
Stephon Diggs to Buffalo. There's plenty of examples of this not being, but in general,
right,
this is true.
Right.
What is your feeling about Deebo Samuel to Washington?
I mean, it's a very small move in terms of compensation, a 5th round pick. Deebo Samuel's worth a 5th round pick.
Yeah. I mean, they're probably going to have to give him a new contract.
Yes. And that can be negotiated. Again, they've got a lot of wiggle room and flexibility, and you've got a team that is a deep playoff team, adding somebody who I think can work in their system because they're not looking for him to be wide receiver 1. They've got,
and it was a clear need because their other wide receivers besides Terry McLaurin are free agents.
Right? So you bring somebody in, he can be your underneath guy, he can be your trick play guy. Perfectly logical move for them. What's interesting is now there's talk about the 49ers moving Ayuk as well. Now,
yeah, that would surprise me because I feel like Ayuk is the main guy in their offense.
He's coming off the ACL tear, and so it's like, right. So he's got $106 million on the back end of the contract he signed in September. He's rehabbing the ACL tear, in October. He's not trade. Like you're asking somebody to take away salary completely at this point, and you're risking losing the guy that you thought you were getting before the injury. So it's a weird combination.
Michael Allen Brewer says the Falcons were clear in combine interviews that they are focusing on defense in the draft. Given the depth of defensive end options available, which tight end will they draft instead? Well, at 15, it would be a Loveland, I believe.
Wait, Loveland? Oh yeah, who had his arm in a sling?
Right. He's the number 2 tight end, right?
He's the number 2 tight end, I think, on most boards, and I think that's a fine place for him, except he had his arm in a sling. He was up there like he just got into a fight at the Starbucks. So, I mean, he should be ready for the season, et cetera. But, that would be it. I mean, Warren probably won't be there at 15, but, you put Warren.
Warren will absolutely not be there at 15 because the Colts are wishing and hoping that he's there at 14,
okay,
which probably is also not going to happen. But he absolutely will not be there at 15, because if he's there at 14, the Colts are running that card up there as fast as possible, by which I mean they're waiting all 15 minutes to run the card up there. But they're putting his name on it at the beginning of the 15 minutes, and then they're sitting around because the NFL has told teams not to run the card up quickly in order to create a television show.
So we can run some commercials and things like that. And you're right about that. But yeah, one thing Michael was right about, the depth on the defensive line is unbelievably good. And you can get a premium edge rusher, a premium defensive tackle there, get a premium cornerback there if you're the Falcons or any other team. Good safety too.
Yeah, another deep position is running back. We got a question before the show from Andy RML asking if there is anything to see about Janty skipping the 40. Are any teams worried about his speed, or was it just that he could only hurt his draft stock by running? I think that at this point, like, the top 10 picks are just skipping all the drills. They feel like, they're going in the top 10. That's not going to change. Mm-hmm. They would rather do drills at their pro day when it's a safe environment for them. I don't think any teams are dropping anybody on their draft boards because of this. There's no worry about Janty. Janty is the number one running back in a deep class.
This is everything you said there is correct. And I don't have them out right now. We're going to do a couple draft shows. And there are like tackle breaking and missed tackle stats on Janty that are downright historic, that are in there on the list of people like Saquon in terms of those stats. So he is a Saquon Bijan level prospect, whether he runs a 40 or not.
Yeah. Bashal Tootin had the best 40 and the best speed score from Virginia Tech.
From Paulsboro, New Jersey.
Oh.
10 miles down Route 295 from here. I had to check to see if I saw him play. Never saw him play in high school. But he's got some very, very cool film, very cool tape. He is a very good tackle breaker, in addition to being fast and winning the speed score championship this year and winning the 40 time. The couple knocks on him, receiving is and 4 fumbles this year, 4 fumbles in 2023. Ball security at the college level is a big deal. Like teams do not like seeing the ball on the ground more than like one time per season. So that's going to limit him. But I did notice NFL.com put Tootin up their list already based on what they saw there. Like that's a good example of a 40 confirming that what you have on tape is like a special trait that can be helpful in the NFL.
On the other end, Christopher Price from the Globe asked me if I had a kind of draft binky this year. And we haven't done Saxier yet. We haven't done Playmaker yet. So the best I could come up with was Harold Fannin from Bowling Green. Ooh. Because his stats were so great, and because so many MAC receivers have been successful in the NFL that I just think you can't grade down the MAC because it's the MAC, because lots of MAC receivers are very successful in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Then Fannin went out and kind of sucked at the drills. So much for that idea.
Yeah, he and I love his tape is fun. You watch him against Penn State, and he looks really, really good. He looks like this special, unique weapon. He's like Ty Warren Jr., where he plays 40 positions. Drills were bad. His Senior Bowl was not great. He's not a really good lateral mover. When you see him not out there in a play designed to get him the ball in space, he's a different guy. So, yeah, you're going to have to pick another binky, I think.
Yeah, we're going to have to find another one. The top of the draft, talking to people, I'd say there's about a 60% chance that it goes Carter number 1, mm-hmm. Cam Ward 2, mm-hmm. Travis Hunter to the Giants 3.
Ooh, okay.
And then I'd say there's about what did I say, 60% chance of that?
Yeah.
I'd say there's about a 30% chance that the Titans trade the number 1 pick to someone that wants a quarterback.
Yeah.
And there's about a 10% chance that something else happens.
Yeah, I would probably go 60-40. Titans make that trade and then end up with Carter or Hunter at 3, maybe with the Giants, for example. And then the team up top, possibly the Giants, would wind up with Cam Ward. Again, not because of overall value, but positional value. But we were talking off screen. There's all kinds of Titans rumors out there, and then there's some wacky stuff. So here's the wacky stuff I saw when I was trying to do some Googling to get caught up on contract negotiations. There's a wild hair internet rumor or internet speculation or internet fanfic that the Titans will trade the first overall pick to the 49ers for Brock Purdy.
Which, first of all, is ridiculous that you would trade the number 1 pick just to give Brock Purdy a gigantic contract.
Yes.
But also I think shows the problem with aggregation, which is, so this happened to me. I wrote the bold moves suggestions article for ESPN, and they made the title projections, which was a mistake because they weren't projections. They were suggestions of just ideas to think about. It's a clickbait article. I'll be really honest. That's what it is that I write.
We do it. Yeah.
And it got picked up places as breaking news. Falcons are considering doing this, or Vikings are considering trading JJ McCarthy. I didn't say they were considering. I said they should consider. Right.
What was the craziest one that got aggregated on you? Was it McCarthy?
That the Jets should cut Garrett Williams. Not cut, trade Garrett Williams.
Okay. Wilson?
Wilson. Sorry, Garrett
Wilson. Yeah. I wouldn't want necessarily my name associated with that when I had thrown it out there, and my assignment was come up with a wacky thing for each team, which is kind of what your assignment was.
Right. And it was not, veteran NFL reporter Aaron Schatz reports that the Jets are planning to trade Garrett Wilson.
No.
It was veteran NFL analyst and not reporter Aaron Schatz suggests that maybe the Jets should bandy about the idea of trading Garrett Wilson and think about it as a possibility. And it got aggregated. And so this Purdy thing is, not somebody with my experience getting aggregated, and all of a sudden it's breaking news 49ers are considering, which is ridiculous.
Right. You are working for ESPN. You have 20 years of experience in the field, etc. So somebody who's an aggregator might look at it very superficially and say, oh, Shots, I know who that is. It's ESPN, and then run with it. This came from a gambling website. I traced it back to a gambling website. A younger reporter, I have no knowledge of their work, etc. It's just scraping. This is people just scraping stuff off the internet that was said and then repackaging it until it takes on a life of its own. I'll say this though, man. I feel your pain, but at least people are paying attention to what you say.
That's absolutely true. Michael Allen Brewer says, are the Giants really going to kick the tires on the Aaron Rodgers experience?
Maybe. I don't know. The Giants reporters are kind of like, maybe.
We have a number of teams now that just don't have quarterbacks. And that's who's available out there. Is Rodgers, or trade for Cousins, or Russell Wilson, or Justin Fields. And there's too many chairs and not enough people to sit down in them, honestly.
That's right. If I'm the Giants and I'm within trading distance of just grabbing Cam Ward and going to the Titans and say, well, here's another pick and here's Thibodeau or somebody like that. Can we play ball? That is all I'm doing right now if I'm the Giants. I want quarterback of the future. There's one that I'm comfortable with. It's Cam Ward. Go get him. You can get this deal done. Before I'm going to take Rodgers, I might as well take Shedeur.
Yeah.
If I'm going to deal with a crazy person, it's going to be the dad of the quarterback, not the quarterback.
Yeah. Plus, no one thinks Aaron Rodgers is going to get better.
Right.
With Shedeur, you at least have the potential that he is a really good NFL starting quarterback, and you want to play with that potential. I'm with you completely. I would much rather have Shedeur Sanders at a Shedeur Sanders rookie price and deal with Dion.
Right.
Than have Aaron Rodgers at a veteran NFL quarterback price and deal with Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Now, we don't know what Mara and Tish and Sheen and Dable really think about these things. So Cousins would be an interesting one because you could possibly get him at price control. But I don't know what you accomplish with that.
Again, that's the trouble is there's two rookie quarterbacks and a number of teams that need to build for the future.
Right.
And the only team that really is like, we need a veteran because the rest of our team can compete is the Steelers.
Right. And they're going to keep Russ. They're almost certainly.
It looks like that. Although I've seen reports that they like Fields better, but if they benched Fields early in the season, so I don't understand why they would like Fields better. They didn't seem to. They didn't play him.
Right. They could have said late in the season, oh, Russ is starting to fade. Let's put Fields back in to get a spark, and they didn't do that. So.
All right, moving from the rookies to the free agency again, since we've already started on that. Trey Smith and T. Higgins franchised. Do you have any thoughts about the Trey Smith? The Trey Smith one is interesting. First of all, not all of his metrics are great. Like he had a lot of blown blocks last year by the FTN charting.
Okay.
And you have to give a guard an offensive lineman franchise tag, so he instantly becomes the highest paid guard in the game.
Interesting. They're stuck in a situation they cannot open another hole. on their offensive line. And that boils down to it. And there was a lot of speculation that he might be available. I mean, he was somebody I know Patriots fans were talking about. I think I saw on the outline Patriots fans are talking Ronnie Stanley right now. That's more feasible. But yeah, it comes down to we have to pay the premium now to make sure we don't open up a third hole on our line. And again, this does not preclude them getting an extension done, 3 months from now.
The surprising one to me is the idea that the Cowboys are going to franchise Osa Odigizua.
Yeah.
Odigizua,
Yeah.
who only had 4.5 sacks last year.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of pressures, second on the team to Parsons, but he only has 13.5 career sacks.
Right.
That is a big number to give to a guy who nobody considers one of the top edge rushers in the game.
Yeah, I know they like him. And I get liking him. So if you like him, you just get him to an extension. That's a 3-year deal. That's makes him, the 17th highest paid or whatever defensive end in the league. But with all Cowboys things, including the fact that there's now another story that they have started to initialize, starting the prioritization of beginning to thinking of talking about Micah Parsons. As with all Cowboys news.
Yeah. Yeah. Here are the top teams in effective cap space. So these are the teams that are going to be most in free agency.
Yeah.
Patriots, $120 million. Raiders, $90 million. Cardinals, $75 million.
Oh, wow. The Cardinals are still in the NFL. I forgot.
Bears, $70 million.
Good.
And then these teams are all near $60 million. The Bengals, the Chargers, the Vikings, and I don't know if this includes the Deebo Samuel trade or not, the Commanders.
Okay. Now, by the way, the Bengals, is that with or without Higgins on a franchise?
Oh, I think that's probably without Higgins on a franchise. You're right. So it'll be lower.
And that takes it way down because all that franchise money is just sitting there. It's not extended across.
The bottom teams in effective cap space. You know who's number one, baby. New Orleans Saints minus $53 million in effective cap space. Their over the cap page is amazing. The number, like the top 30 players all say that if you cut them, it has negative cap ramifications. They are in so much trouble.
Right. And I mean, I don't have it exactly right when I look at these things, but when their salary is at the minimum, that means you can't do it anymore. You can't do the thing anymore that they always do. It's like, we'll turn their salary into bonus and extend it. They're out of salary to extend. Now, somebody told me that they could get compliant if they cut something like 9 starters who are over 30 years of age.
I don't think till after June 1st, and they have to get compliant before June 1st.
Right. That would have to be post June 1st cuts. Plus, those cuts are Derek Carr, Taysom Hill, Demario Davis, Cameron Jordan, Honey Badger. Like, and then do you even have a roster at that point afterwards? And you're right. I'm not sure, team. Right. And I'm not sure even how that works because I think they would be taking 2 years of hits to do it that way, which means they would be insolvent next year.
Browns are at minus $31 million. And then you get to teams where I'm assuming you can restructure a couple of guys and deal with this. Chiefs at minus 20.
Yeah, they'll make it work.
Bills at minus 13.
They're very good at making that work.
Seahawks and Falcons at minus 10.
The worst thing to be is on that list and like 9 and 8. Because if you're the Bills and you're on that list, it's like, we'll squeeze everything together and we'll get the same team out there and we'll go.
Right, but if you're the Seahawks and Falcons, you don't want to put the same team out there. You want to add. Right,
exactly. And like the Bills could get a ring chaser on a minimum or something like that. And these teams are not getting any ring chasers.
The philosopher asked before the show, how do we view the free agent running back market? Several successful signings in 2024 may encourage teams to spend, but there's also a deep group of rookies available in the draft. I think anybody who spends money on running backs in free agency this year is an idiot. The only running back, Aaron Jones is the top guy, but he's like 31. If you think Nick Chubb is healthy, he's the one back here who I really think is a game changer because all those attempts at metrics to separate a back from the blocking always think Nick Chubb is amazingly good before his injury.
Yes, before his
injury.
If
you think he's healthy, that really brings you something. Otherwise, it's a list of guys who are absolutely positively not Saquon Barkley, Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, J.K. Dobbins, Raheem Mostert, A.J. Dillon. Why you would give a lot of money to any of those guys, I have no idea. There's already talk the Steelers want to re-sign Najee Harris. Why do they want to do that? I don't understand it. There are tons of running backs in this draft.
He's a good guy to let somebody else sign for like 2 years.
Oh my God.
2 years and $16 million. And a lot of these guys, obviously, we're going to get them for 2 and 10. We'll go get them for 2 and 10. A lot of these guys, that's not a terrible thing. But to give you an example, like Javonte Williams, he was somebody, came out of the draft, looked like he was going to be exceptional. I think he was exceptional as a rookie. He's had a series of injuries and is now just another running back, just another guy. He comes out of North Carolina. If you want that kind of guy coming out of North Carolina right now this year is Omarion Hampton, who ran like the absolute wind at the combine, has tremendous film, has great film as a pass protector, so he looks like he's somebody who's going to be out there as a 3-down guy for you. Probably be there late second round, early third round, because there's so many defensive tackles that there's just going to be like runs and runs and runs on them. Why are you going into that free agent class, except for the minimum, get a guy for the minimum, when there are dudes like that, when there are dudes like Tootin, where you can get like the other ETN brother who's not particularly great, but he'll probably be there in the 5th round.
Yeah, I'm not. This is the wrong year to feel like you have learned a lesson from Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry.
Right. I think the only lesson is if you sort of have, like a James Cook who's a year away from the contract, if the Bills decide to come up with some extension, okay, I can see that because he's provided you with this very specific thing. You're not going to go out and get Saquon in this free agent class.
Henry Accountant asked, what is the typical shelf life for tackles in their prime? Can we expect Ronnie Stanley to keep up great play into his 30s as a free agent target for the Patriots? Brian Burke did some analysis for ESPN and then didn't write an article about it. He just put it on Twitter. And of course, we're not noticing things on Twitter as much these days because a lot of us are on Blue Sky. Yeah. But it was age curves for offensive linemen, and they are good. Offensive linemen keep their value into their 30s. They do. Okay. And so I think that the Patriots could absolutely go after Ronnie Stanley and not feel like they're going to get a year. They're going to get probably value over the whole of the contract for Ronnie Stanley. In fact, Burke's analysis showed centers just keep getting better as they get older until they finally retire, which is kind of like mind-blowing. But it was like the age curves for offensive linemen were really much higher than other positions as far as how long it takes for them to decline.
Now, there's got to be some survivor bias in that data, especially when you're talking.
Yeah, although he did tell me he tried to get rid of the survivor bias by using certain types of analysis. So.
Okay. But yeah,
I don't remember specifically what it was.
The fact is that Stanley would be among the survivors anyway, already at this point in his career by what he's accomplished. And anecdotally, when you start looking at your Trent Williamses and your Lane Johnsons, it does look like this is somebody you can give that contract to and get 3 years of comfortable, play, assuming he stays healthy.
Yeah, and everybody has connected the Patriots to Stanley. If the Ravens don't re-sign Stanley, the Patriots have the most money. They have a massive need at the position. Everybody feels like they're going to go out and do that.
Seems like reasonable. And yeah, it's an instant. Now we don't have to worry about this. Now we can go look for Travis Hunter in the draft.
Unless Stanley says, I don't want the most money. I want to play for a Super Bowl contender. Stanley to the Patriots is going to happen.
And if that's the case, then you stay put and you talk about renegotiation with the Ravens because that's the team that could fit that bill.
Be a Super Bowl contender. Yeah. I wrote a thing for ESPN. It's not out yet, but it's under the radar free agents. I picked up 5 players. I'm going to mention them here, and the first one already re-signed.
Oh, no. Who is it?
And that is Alaric Jackson, the Rams offensive tackle.
Right.
Moved into the starting lineup for good in 2023, just 27 years old next season, 12th in their run block win rate, 24th in pass block win rate. Doesn't come as expensive as other tackles. Good job, Rams.
They're taking care of their business. They stayed home from the combine, and they took care of their business.
Here are the other 4 guys I'm going to mention in alphabetical order. Best order. Patrick McCarry.
Okay.
The Ravens OL, who can play both tackle and guard, was very good last year as a guard. He's not as good as a tackle. Mm-hmm. He's known more for his technique than his athletic skills, but he gives you a lot of versatility.
The kind of guy you have to promote if you lose Stanley, or if you keep Stanley, he goes and becomes one of these guys that gets brought in by the weaker teams to try and anchor their offensive line.
Dio Odeyingbo,
Going
Colts edge rusher.
boldly picking the guys who are hard to pronounce. Colts edge rusher?
Yes, quiet career. Torn Achilles prior to the draft cost him most of his rookie season. Only 16 and a half career sacks in 4 years.
Okay.
But a strong pass rush win rate last year, led the Colts in pass pressures, according to ESPN Stats and Info. I talked to a couple of Colts guys who were left over at the JW on Friday waiting for the Kaler ex Peter King, Son King event.
Yes.
And they felt like, yeah, the Colts have enough other edge rushers. They're not going to re-sign this guy. He's a good, he's a rotational piece, but a good rotational piece.
That's very good Colts reasoning, by the way. Like, we're kind of okay at this position, which means we're fine. We're not going to do anything.
Well, I mean, I think if you'd want to do something, you'd want to bring in someone who's going to be better than this.
Right.
Not just another. So it's almost like, well, replace him with a draft pick. Take a 3rd round pick or something. Because they have Laiatu. They have Laiatu. They have Kwity Paye. Right? Those are their starters. Ebukam is coming back from injury.
Okay, he's good.
You add like a 3rd or 4th round pick, you don't really need to keep Odeyingbo.
Yeah, if you want to stay the Colts. I'm sorry. It's like you described like the 13th best pass rush in the NFL, and it's like, if we let this dude go. Of course, if you keep him, you're still the 13th best pass rush.
Right, that's the thing.
Right.
Darius Slayton, Giants wide receiver.
Yeah, he's an odd duck, isn't he?
Yeah, he's this guy who they keep kind of trying to kick out of the starting lineup, and he keeps coming back.
Yes.
And being in the starting lineup. He's a deep threat, didn't fare well in the ESPN receiver tracking metrics last season, but was really good the season before and is still only 28.
And he had a connection with Daniel Jones. Like, the only thing that ever worked for like both of them really was that they could connect on deep balls. I think when Jones faded, Slayton faded, of course, Neighbors took over a lot of that, just being a superior player. But like, yeah, if you're trying to add deep speed affordably, I think Slayton is, he's got potential there.
And as I mentioned, I think to you at the Combine, it's ridiculous that State Farm has not signed Malik Neighbors yet for commercials.
Because?
Like Malik Neighbors, State Farm is there.
That does not make me want to buy insurance.
My last guy is Robert Spillane.
Yeah!
Linebacker. Never talked about as one of the league's top off-ball linebackers, but he was 3rd in the NFL last year in the percentage of team plays he was involved with, 6th in defeats, and was one of the top linebackers in coverage DVOA.
Yeah, no, the hammer. He's out there. He's assignment perfect. He hits hard. He does his thing. He's playing for the Raiders. He's on the field for 1 million snaps because he plays for the Raiders defense.
Right.
That's a good ball player. If you're looking for that linebacker, you can say he can come in, be an every down guy, etc. That's your guy.
I mean, he has to wait for Bond, right? He has to wait for Bond to get out of the way. Because Bond is the number 1 playmaker on defense in this free agent class.
Right, you're right. I forgot. Yeah, after Bond, who is like the $120 million man, yes. Then you get Spillane, a guy you can afford.
Yeah, I like Spillane a lot.
No, he's a good ball player. That's a great choice.
So we are going to be back a week from Thursday.
Because
Monday the 10th is the start of a tampering period. And let the announcements will come fast and furious.
Yep.
And then we will do our show on Thursday, the 13th of March, to review the first week of free agency. Put it on your calendar. We're going to do shows on the 13th and 20th of March to review free agency, 11 a.m. Eastern as usual.
I'm hearing this for the first time, so I'm putting it on my calendar too. But yes,
you're not hearing it for the first time. Someone hasn't been reading their emails.
No, not me. That doesn't sound like me at all.
All right, that does it for today's show. Thank you all for watching and listening. Look forward to tomorrow, Tuesday, 1978 DVOA will be published.
Woo.
It is written up Tuesday and Wednesday, 1978 on FTN Fantasy. Very exciting. And then we go back to the modern world with free agency next week. So we will see you on Thursday, the 13th for the next live stream / podcast. Please remember to rate the show. Please remember to tell your friends about it. All that good stuff you hear at the end of every podcast applies to us too. For Mike Tenier, I'm Aaron Schatz for FTN Fantasy. So long, everybody.